Welcome to today's episode of Flow Meter Guy, where the currents of wit and wisdom flow as smoothly as the meters we discuss and the people who use them. Today, we are honored to welcome our guest, who is an inventor and the backbone of a very successful business that provides products and services to the HVAC, the TAB, CX, building automation, and process controls industries. And despite this busy schedule of his, he's taken the time out to say hello to us today. Well then, young man, what is your name and what do you do for a living?
Brent, welcome. I'm Pete Secor, CEO of Evergreen Telemetry.
And we're in Mesa.
We are Mesa, Arizona, outside of Phoenix, and welcome to the desert. And you are welcome for us getting the temperature down underneath 150.
150. So yeah, the Flow Meter team is on the road today. We're not in Atlanta. We're in not hot Atlanta. We're in hot Arizona. So I know you're a very busy guy. And then after hours, I assume you need something to blow your steam off. Do you have any kind of hobbies or things you like to do outside business, actually?
I used to have a lot of hobbies, and now I just work all the time. Until sometime on Saturday afternoon, my wife calls me and says, your week is over. Get home now.
Well, I know you're active. The guys have told me that you like to do some hiking. Yep. And then stories of you and I having chats some time ago. You used to do skiing as well.
I was an avid skier when I lived in Northern California, and I would go over to Lake Tahoe. Oh yeah, I couldn't get
enough place.
Yeah, we joked. We joked that we had to go back to work on Monday morning to rest up and get ready for the next weekend.
So now it's changed. Now I haven't skied in 30 years, and we went out skiing at Lake Tahoe about 2 years ago. And the one thing that happened is the technology changed dynamically. The skis are more hourglass shaped, and the boots are farther back on the skis. And the hardest part was walking in the boots to get to the lift. So I realized that it's a young man's game. I didn't care how much it costs, but and as we actually were going down the hill, and we had to wear helmets, and we were the only two people with two skis. Everyone else had one ski on it. We realized real quickly this is a game for young people with sturdier bones than I have.
Right. Yeah.
And so what we like to do is talk a little bit about the journey that you've taken. So maybe we can kind of start things off like, where did you go to school? What kind of background do you have to start this journey?
Sure. So my father was a contractor, general contractor. He was a builder. We lived in Tucson. Actually, you will remember that my very first years were in Port Huron, Michigan.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. No.
So we have that in common. But when I was 12 or 14 years old, we moved to Tucson. And I helped my father dig ditches for footings, wheelbarrow concrete, things like that. Carrying 2x4s, anything around the job. That was me in construction, working on the weekends and then the summer. And went to the University of Arizona, got a degree in engineering. Then from there I went, was briefly in Seattle, but I wound up in Silicon Valley working in semiconductors.
Semiconductors,
right. And then I got a master's in business in night school at the University of Santa Clara. So that's kind of my educational background.
So the semiconductor industry, you're in there for a while, and then somehow you stumbled into the wireless industry, and then HVAC is kind of mixed in there. What came first? Was it the wireless came first, or?
So yeah, in semiconductors, I was lucky to work at two fantastic companies, Fairchild Semiconductor and Advanced Micro Devices. And the technology-wise, it was a fantastic place to be for an engineer.
Mm-hmm.
It was also fantastic to study the management styles and the setting up of a successful culture for a company. And I had wanted to have my own business since I was 21 years old, but never saw the opportunity. But along the way, I wanted to study how other people did it. And I was just absorbing.
Okay.
And I had fantastic mentors. Those were two very well-run companies. So I had a lot of things that I could learn from. So I was in the chip business for quite a while.
The chip business, got it. Okay.
Yeah. So when I was between jobs in the chip business, I responded to an ad that turned out to be Shortridge Instruments, and went over there. Ernie Shortridge hired me, but shortly after that, he passed away, and I will forever regret not spending more time with him.
Now, what was Ernie known for? He was kind of a folklore of that industry, wasn't he?
He invented the first, what we call the multimeter for use in test and balance.
For monitoring air.
The ADM, the air data multimeter.
Okay.
So he invented that, and he invented the capture hood, and he invented the airfoil, which is a superior version of the pitot tube. Very prolific, very important inventions. I think everything else that goes on in this industry is sort of on his shoulder.
Just for our audience then that aren't familiar with the industry, what was before he came in with this technology? How did you solve the problem? You're monitoring air, basically.
You know, in the early days, if you wanted to measure how many CFM were coming out of a grill, you built a cardboard duct, and you put it up there and kind of created an extension duct, and then you got down to the bottom of the duct, and you would traverse it with a pitot tube.
Okay.
And measure several points to get the velocity, average those, and that's how you get your
So we're looking at differential pressure. Okay.
Right. So he came up with basically capturing the air in sort of an industrial skirt. We call it a capture hood or a sock or whatever.
Well, one of these over here.
Exactly. And it captures the air from a grill and forces the air past a measurement grid. The measurement grid can measure what the velocity of the air is, and then you know the cross-sectional area, so you can read out directly in cubic feet per minute.
Okay.
So foundation of test and balance from then on. That was right around 1990.
So why do they want to know that number? What's the purpose of that?
Because the architects and the engineers that create a building, especially commercial buildings, they have a specification for every diffuser, every supply diffuser that is related to what is the heat load. Okay, so you've got a certain space, certain occupancy, plus you have windows or whatever, depending on whether it faces north or south. So the engineers can calculate a heat load for that space. Now they've got to supply a certain number of CFM at a certain temperature in order to maintain comfort in the area.
Okay.
There are safety reasons too. If you're talking about an operating room in a hospital, in order to be safe, that operating room needs to be at an elevated pressure to keep the microbes from the hallway from migrating into the open chest.
Okay.
So there's a variety of reasons for wanting to know how many CFM are coming.
And all these things are long before COVID, basically. This is just
long before.
Yeah, long before COVID.
While you mentioned COVID, though, that was a wake-up call for everybody about the quality of the air. Are you bringing in enough outside air and getting rid of the stale air? Stale air is made up out of what people in the room are breathing out.
Okay.
And now we know they're breathing out, in a lot of cases, bacteria, viruses, etc.
Goodness.
If you bring in enough outside air, that stuff is washed away, and you can have 30 people safely in a space. But if outside air is not coming in, stale air builds up, and then those 30 people, they're all sharing germs. So COVID, that's always been the story. Ventilation going back 50 years has been important for safety. But COVID brought it to the fore, brought it to the front of mind. Had everybody from TAB all the way to Congress is now interested in air quality.
We kind of learned it the hard way, didn't we? Though, as people said, it was amazing that we didn't have problems before.
We just
They're lucky.
we had them. We just didn't realize how severe until COVID came.
So you got your toes into the HVAC business and monitoring air flow.
Right.
And then for some reason, you had an angst to somehow migrate your wireless equipment with that technology and maybe do something by yourself. Was that the timeline? Or?
Well, it's an interesting story. When I left Shortridge, my next job was with a startup company, and their headquarters was in Moscow, Russia. And they were making a little device that creates a mesh network. And their technology is called Zigbee.
I've heard the term before.
It's used for a lot of mesh network. It's huge, and Johnson Control uses it for some of their air control equipment. And the industry that measures for residences measures current going into the home. SRP, APS.
Okay. Okay.
Whatever utility that you have over there, the meter readers. Okay. So instead of a guy, coming to your gate, opening the gate, going down the side of your house, reading the meter on the side, he can do it from the street. He can get it wirelessly. And the dreamers thought that if you imagine Southern California and it gets to be 100 degrees and the supply can't keep up with the demand for power, they imagined that they would send a signal out first, and they would, from a central location, go to the thermostat of the individual residential customer and raise it, let's say, from 76, raise it up to 84 degrees to save electricity. If that wasn't enough, they could go turn off the pool pump. If that wasn't enough, they could turn off the refrigerator.
Wow.
Okay, in order to save power and avoid blackouts.
Sure.
Right, so these mesh networks were kind of coming to the fore right around 2000, 2005.
Mm-hmm.
And this startup that I was with called Meshnetics, they were involved in that. They had a little transceiver chip called a Zigbit. So I was with them for about 18 months. And while I was with them, I was thinking about the mesh network, and I was thinking about what test and balance technicians do based on my short-range experience. And I was thinking about the back and forth that they do when they're making a damper adjustment. And I thought, hey, let's combine this so that they can, while they're making an adjustment, they can see on their wrist what the result is. So
there you go.
I decided to start my own company.
Start your own company. And then the story goes where I get involved. This is where I met Pete first off at a trade show or something with the little Zigbee devices there without the hood at the first time. Talking about that. And you jumped on the bandwagon to develop this company, and I have to say, at this point in time, I tell my sales staff about Pete's journey. At that time, Pete traveled the country. He would say, go to the East Coast, rent a car, bring one or two of the devices you have developed, the hood and in the device, drive up and down the East Coast, stay at the Motel 6 hotel.
You got it, Motel 6.
Survive off of hospitality food and black coffee.
The official motel of...
And you would say, you would go to somebody, one of your customers said, here's the device, try it. If you don't like it, send it back, see you.
Yeah.
And you are an engineer.
Yeah.
You are not a marketeer.
Right.
And the value that you offered was the engineering value of this device to a company that had this need. They didn't know they had the need at the time. Mm-hmm. And you went door knocking, and a devoted person to do this. I tell my salespeople, if this guy can travel the country knocking on doors, selling the ware, and actually establish the base for you to have your business right now is unheard of. And so it's basically through a passion.
Yeah.
It has to be a passion. If you don't have a passion, you can't do it, and you survive with a passion. And so now you see before us, and we'll sell some shots later on, we have a company.
Yeah.
We have a real company that manufactures a product. So tell me the evolution of your company. So you started going door to door. How'd you go from there to here?
I did. I went door to door. It was a long road. And so many people said, well, I got this meter. It works fine. I can get the job done without it. And I just would have to say, well, look at this. When you're doing this application, it'll save you time. Just try it. And it was not an overnight success. It was just, converting one technician at a time.
One at a time.
It took quite a while, yeah. The trade shows and the regional NEBB meetings, those were critical to my success. Because instead of visiting one customer, there were 30 or 40 or 50 customers in the room at one time. So there I am at the table. I got my stuff. People would wander over and say, "Oh, what is this?"
Mm-hmm.
They'd play with it a little bit, and they would want to try it out.
So things have evolved. So now you had an idea. and now you have a product or multiple products. And the other forte that you have is you are a compulsive inventor. You keep inventing something new. Every time I see you, said, hey, I've got something new. And so that is developed by the inquiries customers' needs. Is that where they come from?
Yeah, part of it is, and part of it is just unrealized ideas, things I couldn't do before.
Okay.
I didn't have time, or I didn't have engineering. But recently I've been hiring actually a lot of engineers, and I'm ready for the next generation of evergreen telemetry tools coming in 2025.
Excellent.
Yeah. But yeah, it was what they call is basically continuous incremental change. And, you can make something, get it going, but, you can always make it better. And yes, I appreciate very much. And many, many times customers would say, well, I like this display window you're giving me, but it would be nice if I also had this information. And I would go back to the factory and work with the engineers and do it, and then send out a revision.
So you have some unique with your facility now. You have the staff and the tools and the manufacturing capabilities to take a concept at R&D into production in your own facility here. So you've got everything in your soups to nuts, basically, in your facility, and you're in charge of that. And that's the key to your business, in addition to the technology, is a customer service.
Oh, yeah.
We're a services business, so customer service is kind of important, isn't it?
It's vital. And I got to say, I learned that at Shortridge. I visited some customers when I was with Shortridge, and I saw the difficulties they have on the job. First of all, I want to say tab technicians, I think they do a noble thing. I think they take a building that isn't working right, and they fix it up and they make it run the way it's supposed to run. And that's a noble job because it isn't easy, and they face a lot of challenges on the job. Some are technical and some are human nature, things that they have to fight through, but they do it, and we all wind up being better for it because the hospital works right or whatever.
Yep.
So yeah, I love making those guys more productive and coming up with better tools.
So how many people do you have here now?
We're up to about 30 people.
30 people.
Yeah.
So it used to be a guy driving around in a rental car, drinking black coffee, staying in a Motel 6.
Yeah.
And look what you've got here now. Yeah. What time frame was that? How many years was that, basically?
16.
16 years.
Yeah.
There you go.
2008 I started.
He's so busy.
Yeah.
And he's still, every time I see him, he's got a white tablet. He's writing something, he's inventing something. Every time I sit down and see him.
Yeah, if I get an idea, I'm going to jot it down.
Well, with that in mind, what makes your product, so for example, this hood, other people make something like that. Just a couple bullet points. Why is this different from everybody else? So the audience is a little more definition of what you're doing here.
So the first thing is first invention had to do with the wireless nature. So there are many things that a tab technician wants to do where the point of measurement is not the point of control. And the example we just gave is, this diffuser up here, let's say it's 350 CFM. And the control for that is a damper over here somewhere. So in order to affect that, he needs to change that damper. With the traditional equipment, he'd have to make the damper change, come back over here, lift the capture hood, make a measurement, set the capture hood back down, go back over, climb the ladder, and just repeatedly make adjustments to the damper until you got the right measurement. With wireless and with magnets, put the capture hood up there, it stays up there. There's a sensor on it that sends a result wirelessly to your wrist. So as you adjust that damper, you're coming down, let's say from 450 CFM down to 350 CFM, you can see that result on the wrist reporter. And when you're done, you just tighten that nut and you're done. So the back and forth is eliminated. So that was the first thing. Also, the Shortridge capture hood weighed 9.5 pounds. And I constantly ran into people who complained. They said their tab weight
it up. Okay.
Yeah, all day long you're lifting.
Sure.
So there were injuries to the shoulder and the back and things like. My first capture hood weighed 6.5, a huge improvement. Later I came out with the 3-pound capture hood. So it's just way lighter, easier to handle, and that was a major change in the industry.
There you go. So you took a technology that existed, you improved upon the technology, and then you have other products you manufacture as well. Every time I talk to you, you've got some hospital equipment, you're monitoring the liquids now, you're monitoring a little bit of everything right now.
Right.
What do you think? Where are you going? You said, yes, are you at the point where you can tell us what you're going to come out with in the future there? What's your fantasy products? Or
I'll just
we have to talk to the patent attorneys again. Every time he teases me, I've got something great, but I can't talk about this.
I was thinking of that episode. We were at Northern Cal, and I had invented the 3-pounder, and I so much wanted to tell everybody
But you
about
couldn't tell anybody.
And the patent attorney said, don't mention one thing about it. So I kind of, teased the crowd with the idea. But
now, so with that value, the background of your structure company, so if you have patentable products, that is why you have certain things that other people don't have at this point in time. There's a protection at this point in time.
Yeah, I have 9 patents now.
Okay.
Working on some more.
There you go.
I want to mention one other thing about the technology that was not appreciated initially. So I was thinking about this application with the dampers and being able to wirelessly see it. But what it turned out to be the case that with wireless, you can see multiple locations, multiple results from multiple locations at the same time. And that was a game changer. If you consider room-to-room pressures, many times they want to see 5 or 6 results at the same time instead of measuring them one at a time. Now, with this technology, you can see that. I call it system at a glance. Same thing with temperature. You might be interested in the occupied space temperature, but you might want to compare it to the outside air temperature, the supply air temperature, the return air temperature, and the mixed air temperature. With wireless, you can see all of those temperatures at exactly the same time, and you can make an educated decision about the adjustment that you're going to make. So that was not anticipated originally with the wireless technology, but we quickly added it to the toolkit, and it was a game changer. Huge winner.
Huge winner. So you said you're getting ready for big things to come.
Yeah.
You think the economy's there, the industry's there.
Yeah.
You've got a lot of new secret products that you can't tell anybody about. True. That's part of the charm of this organization. We just tease the crap out of us all the time, but he always comes through.
Yeah.
And Pete is well-renowned in this particular industry. And we talked about test and balance and NEB, that's National Environmental Balancing Bureau, but I think they just go by the name NEB right now. It's an organization that basically makes some guidelines on how to test building facilities. So primarily you do commercial work then, I guess. Is there some residential work in there too?
We are mostly selling to tab technicians that work on commercial buildings, but we are making some inroads into residential as well. And we sell to the owners of the buildings, whether it's Intel or Tesla or the hospital, we're selling
big names there.
The building owners as well.
So you've been running this business for about 16 years now. And if you know what you know, if you were to come back and talk to yourself 16 years ago and say, you know what, I learned this. If I had to do it all over again, what would I do differently this time?
I would have raised more money.
Money.
It's a lot easier to do this stuff if you got money in the bank. If you're waiting for somebody to pay you, well, you're waiting for that check to arrive in the mailbox. It's a
stressful and a difficult, but it sounds.
I should have raised 5 times more money than I did.
Yeah. Well, whatever you did worked. Maybe took a little bit longer to get where you're at now. That you're here and you're looking forward here. So then kind of wrapping this thing and closing it up then, what's in the future for Pete? You're going to work here for the rest of your life? You're going to retire and become a sailor? What's in the horizon for you?
I've still got the fire in the belly. And I've got some new engineers and some as I said, the next generation of test and balance tools, and we're working on that right now, and they'll come, many of those will come out in 2025.
So as I said, I had a tour of the building. We'll show some pictures of the tour of the building. And Pete has, how many employees did you say you had?
About 30.
You have 30 employees there, and one skill that Pete has, he has delegated some responsibilities to some really sharp people that run the business. So even though Pete is the backbone of the business, you have enough time to make these technical decisions and innovate these things and have your team do some of the regular things that run the business, so to speak, in the background there. As I said, I've never seen a cleaner manufacturing facility in my life. I can get off the floors there. So
Thank you.
those are the guys who take care of that.
Well, let's call out Ramon Zerdanat, and then some other key director level people, Tony, Julie, Colby, and Scott Fielder. I'd like to call them out. Yes, I've got people I can rely on now to run their own departments.
What I'd like to say is thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedule. I'm sorry I came in late and was hot and grumpy and I'm old. And
I hope you're not grumpy again. Hey, thank you.
Thank you very much
for a couple of things. Thanks for this opportunity, and thanks for your friendship over the years. When I would go to those trade shows, I would look forward to having you in the booth next door.
Yeah.
You just raise the spirits of everybody in the room.
We're two birds of a feather. We have similar interests there.
Oh, you have a talent for putting people at ease and making everybody happy. We're great jokes and humor, and I appreciate that.
Thanks for tuning into another exciting episode of Flowmeter Guy. Want to catch more episodes? Just follow the playlist link right over here. Remember, we need people like you to make this channel a success. If you've got a story to share or have a recommendation for a future episode, drop us a comment below. We'd love to hear from you. Well then, until next time.